an investment asset class. It's not one for the faint of heart, but that doesn't undermine the fundamental value proposition that crypto presents, which is a total revolution in the way we think about transfers of value, and we think about the way in which society identifies things of value in a new digital age.
So I got to go here, but if I'm reading right, the ultimate message is that crypto is here to stay, particularly the bigger names like the Bitcoins of the world. And people, if they ride it out, it'll be worth the ride. These ups and downs, it's going to ultimately be worth the ride. And not even the power of giant countries and protecting their fiat currency will stop this. That's what I'm hearing.
And the proof of that, Charles, is the amount of institutional interest that's moving into this asset class, even now at the reduced price from a few months ago.
The Honorable Giancarlo. Thank you so much.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And guys, I come back with that video just to make you think. And we have Chris Giancarlo is telling us the truth. But what they always leave out is the fourth industrial revolution. Society 5.0. The rise of the robots are going to replace humanity. And that's the reason why cryptos are so important. We see the sheep, the masses have no clue of what crypto even is. Even during this time of making money, there's so many people that have no clue. And then also we have Mike Novogratz talking about the 10-year yield. And guys, I bring you everything. But we know why it went down, because the Fed is pushing it down. We see the manipulation on a daily basis, which they're never going to say. And when they're not manipulating the market, cryptos go down and stocks go down. They move together. Why? Because the Fed is controlling it all. The Fed pumped the stocks, and we know this. They told us they pumped it. And then also we know that they pump cryptos. And lastly, we have Brian Brooks talking about Binance. And as soon as they hire Brian Brooks, Binance US, that's when we started the heat come on Binance.com. We know Brian Brooks has a secret mission for Binance US. And then also, guys, we know that regulation, all the lawsuits that we see, all the pressure on the different exchanges, we know there's an agenda to bring regulation to us. As the market is falling, it's going to be the perfect time to bring in regulation, so that therefore all the cards fall, and all of a sudden we're going to see the 1% rise, the New World Order picks on who's going to move into the fourth industrial revolution. The same way they did big tech. Because remember, when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. Y'all have a wonderful day.
But what's going on with the 10-year? What's going on with the...
the only thing I can think of is, post-Fed, people kind of took risk down. They all put risk back on, and we're all getting squeezed. And, when you get into the sleepy summer months, $120 billion a month of consistent Fed buying just eats you alive. Yeah, maybe there's a little delta in this, but I think it's positioning. I think we're now in a new range in the 10-year. It's probably 120 to 140. There's a lot of wood above 140. And so to get back above 140 in yields is going to take something spectacular, right? Some real new data or shift of body language from the Fed. And I think 120 should hold. And so we're going to be in a sleepy summer bounce around range. I think most of the pain in fixed income has happened in the last 3-4 days. You've probably survived. Maybe there's one more flush. But every hedge fund I talk to is bleeding a little or a lot. Listen, we think rates are at the wrong level. I think the equity market got nervous last night because they said, well, geez, maybe the fixed income market knows something we don't. And China cutting, same message. Well, maybe China's slowing in front of us. But I think it's more positioning.
Pullback in day in a lot of asset classes, and as usual, crypto goes along with it. There's no non-correlation that's really ever been demonstrated, I don't think. So that's a given that it's down. Have you been gratified that 30 seems to have held a couple of times, and the new range seems to be, I'm talking Bitcoin, the new range seems to be at 30 to 35,000?
Yeah, we're consolidating it here between 30 and 35. And what we're seeing is Asia sells it off, and then the U.S. buys it back. We're seeing new money flow into crypto funds, to venture funds, to hedge funds. And so there was lots of buying at the beginning of the month, and you saw altcoins, Ethereum, a bunch of the other coins besides Bitcoin have really good moves. And then the Asians continue to sell, right? I mean, China's declared war on crypto as part of this broader Cold War that we're getting into. And so I think that we're still digesting that.
Can you explain, like, how are you owned by them, or what is the relationship?
Yeah, so we're not owned by them at all. Binance.com doesn't own a single share of Binance US. We share a common founder, and historically, Binance US licensed the name and some technology from Binance.com. The way to think about it really is that a couple of years ago, it was clear that the world was segmenting into two basic kinds of markets. You had most of the world, which was still learning about crypto, didn't have crypto licenses or requirements. And then you had an emerging part of the developed world that started putting crypto within a regulatory framework. We were founded precisely to be a regulatorily compliant licensed exchange. So we've got 43 US states that allow us to trade in their borders based on licenses and other legal compliance mechanisms that we have. We'll eventually have all 50 state licenses. And then, of course, there are other parts of the world served by a different company. But other than licensing the name and licensing the technology, we operate independently. We have a separate board of directors. We have a separate ownership. And you might think about us as essentially a Binance branded exchange that's doing our own business here. They're the biggest in the world. We're the 8th biggest in the world. Different companies.
All right. So we got the brand here in the U.S. Now, Brian. When we talk about the U.S. regulation or lack of it, and I'm curious as to your thoughts as to why it's been so slow to see something a little bit more formative out of the SEC and the other regulators here, whether it's setting up guardrails, whether it's approving ETFs. There just doesn't seem to be any real momentum, at least not I can see publicly.
Well, Romain, that is a great comment. And I think, honestly, it says more about the U.S. regulatory system than it says about crypto, to be honest. Part of it is, in this country, we set up a lot of different regulators and gave them each their share of turf. So the issue is, and I know this having run one of these agencies, there's a little bit of inherent turf conflict between, the Fed and the OCC, or the SEC and the CFTC. Everybody's trying to grab a little bit of turf. And because of that, it's hard to get clarity. If you look at a country like the United Kingdom, where there's basically a single regulator for the entire financial system, that's the Financial Conduct Authority, it's a lot easier to get clarity. Over here, you've got competition among agencies, there's overlap in their jurisdiction, and so at some level, it's tough to deal with. But I will say, we're not as far behind as people might think. I mean, at the end of the last administration, all of the major regulators, myself included, got together through the president's working group on financial markets and started providing some clarity on certain crypto assets like stablecoins. And I think that's an example of how our regulatory system can adapt if all the regulators work together.
We're going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go. But clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
This effort. And China has big plans for this. They intend to seed their digital yuan into the global environment by giving it away to visitors at next winter's Olympics. When they arrive at the airport, they're going to get yuan digital wallets. They're going to receive digital yuan. They're going to use it throughout their visits to Beijing, and then they're going to take it back to their home countries. They see this as a huge advantage. Why? Because who controls the underlying protocols? Who controls the underlying standards of the future of money will control the future of money.